Okay, so I'm basically doing this video because I haven't seen, or I looked for videos similar to this online and I couldn't find one. This is basically the original style Softail. This is a 2015 Softail Slim 103 model. It does have a nacelle headlight that I added onto it. It's got aftermarket kit and air cleaner, aftermarket exhaust. Other than that, it's pretty much stock. I put black mirrors on it when the whole black craze was going on. I just felt like adding a little more black to it, black headlight trim ring. But what I'm adding to it is the passing light accessory kit. I've seen it on a couple of these FLs and FLSs, and I think it looks cool. I think it's a nice accessory for the front. They're starting to become hard to get because of the newer body styles that came in 2018 and up. So these older ones, finding original Harley parts are starting to get a little bit harder to go through the dealer and stuff. You have to find them used or aftermarket. And I really want to keep this as much Harley as I can, besides your standard, power accessories. But we're going to do an unboxing for this video of the stuff I got today at Victorville Harley Davidson here in California. They told me it was the only place in California that had one in stock. So, although they did tell me they were going to resupply themselves in, midsummer, but as for right now, only one place had it in stock. So, I got the kit. These are other add-ons. I got the kit, and I have the headlights you got to buy separately, or the passing lights. The kit number is 6800026. Maybe that's 4 zeros. Parking light kit. So we'll do it's not a true unboxing because I did open it at the dealership because it looked like it was previously open, so it might have been a return. I wanted to confirm all the parts were in there. But we'll tell you what's in the box now. And these are the parking actual lamps. Another note, it's using a traditional headlight, by the way. I'm a big fan of. I'm not a fan of the way the LED looks. I'm not trying to go LED. It just, to me, this classic bike, headlights are part of it. So I bought the kit using classic side or passing lights that I'm going to use also. I don't want to convert to LED. I don't want to convert to Daymaker Harley, anything like that. I think they look ugly on the front of the bike. This is my opinion. I like the classic look to it. So we'll start the unboxing and see what comes in this kit. Of course, I'm doing this with one hand, people. Like I said, it looked like it was previously open, so I had to inspect everything before I left the dealership. It was kind of far from me, so I checked everything. It looked like it was all here. Okay, first things first is the instruction sheet. So that's good. You could tell it's kind of folded and crisp and dirty, so someone had their hands on it before, but that's fine. You got one lamp housing. Two lamp housings. Looks like we have the stainless or chrome trim rings, which I'm going to use. My headlight has a black trim ring, but I have a stainless or chrome one I'm going to use, so it all matches. And I'll probably change these mirrors back to chrome too, if I'm going to do that. So that's what it comes with. They do sell the black ones separately, which I might buy just to have options if I change my mood every once in a while. Looks like some sort of heat shrink tubing, zip ties, looks like some sort of foam, double-sided tape. It's probably for paint protection or rubbing, I'm guessing. Looks like headlamp retainers. I'm not sure what you call these. I'm sure there's a name in the instruction sheet. Let me see. Looks like it's called a number 18 nesting ring inner. So it's got two of those. What I'm also going to do, because I didn't see it online, is make a PDF of these instruction sheets and just, you know, make them available on the internet. Hardware kit. Now this made me a little nervous because, as you can see, it says lock assembly bag left hand, S bag left hand, and has a part number. So shouldn't there be a left hand and a right hand? I did open it up. I counted all the parts. I went and did a small inventory of everything, compared the instruction sheet, and everything was there. So I don't know if that's just the way it's labeled, or there was two bags and everyone just threw, or someone just threw everything in one bag. Either way, it's all here, so that's good. Again, two-sided foam, or foam with two-sided tape. And then finally, the actual brace. It's actually very nice, real high gloss powder coat, which will match my bag perfectly. My only weird part is that I have that nacelle, so hopefully that works on here. If not, I'm gonna have to make it work. And it should mount. Just right here like this. All right. So that's the unboxing. I'll keep everything laid out. And then the next video will be the install. Okay? Thank you. Oh, I'm back. I forgot the second part, which would be the headlights. Or passing lights, I guess. These are Harley Davidson. They are made in Taiwan, which it must be a misconception, but I thought they made everything here for some reason. I know they're going to start making products in Europe for European market, but that's a different story. Looks like a nice quality light. Either way, it's factory Harley. Again, the next video will be the install. Stay tuned. Thank you. Okay, so first thing the instruction sheet tells me on this is to remove these two bolts and remove the back housing. Now this is a nacelle, so it's a half and half clamshell. It doesn't have the rear back housing like the original one does. The reason it's asking me to do that is because it wants me to hardwire a on-off switch for the auxiliary light switch. It might, I like the idea of an on-off switch, but I also like the idea of just having them on all the time and they turn on with the motorcycle. So I would have to take it all apart, drill a hole in the back, and then put it all back together and then kind of reassemble it, as opposed to the original where she would just take the back off. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But either way, I'm going to get in there now. I'm going to disconnect the battery, disconnect the trim ring, and pull out the headlight, because that's where the wiring is going to come out. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Well, technically the first thing I'll do is disconnect the battery from underneath the seat. Okay? Now Harley gives you these bolts to replace the existing ones, which are these real bitchin' chrome Allens with these real shitty grade 5 zinc looking ugly fucking bolts. I'll never run that on the side of my bike. I guess I could put caps on it if I felt like it, but I got a pretty good local hardware store. I'm going to make a run over there and see if I can find something nicer. So I took off the trim rings, just single screw down here in the bottom. I'm going to remove this headlight and just to expose the wires. I did go to the hardware store. It wasn't as nice of a selection of bolts that I wanted. I just kind of got a cap, black cap, stainless, some candy, and some, yes, it's candy corn, don't kill me over that. Some stainless hex, some black cap. Probably, these are temporary, even though they cost me like $26 because they're all high-end screws. This will probably be temporary until I find the proper screw and or a cap or something a little bit nicer to fit on the side. But this is definitely better than what comes with it. So, okay. Also, I'm going to disconnect the battery first, safety first. Okay, so obviously we went into the evening. This was the issue. The Freight Train Nacelle Harley headlight has a smooth edge on here. The original Harley Davidson Slim has a gap in here, I guess, for lack of a better term, with a chrome aluminum molding that is inserted into it. Okay, so the original piece needs to be removed, and then the original spacers, you can see everything that's happened. The original spacers here would go into the factory gap, okay, and take up that room, and everything would fit nicely. Well, on this straight edge from the nacelle, there's no, spacing in there. It actually sticks out too far, so I have to expand the end pieces for it to go, and it just doesn't look good. So these pieces here would have to expand and be wider, and it looks ugly. And I didn't feel like cutting, because what happens is when you cut it, it's not, I'm gonna cut it freehand. It's kind of small. It won't come out straight. It's gonna have sharp edges, and I just wouldn't be into the way it looked. Plus, to get it right, if I have to recut it, it might just take forever. Obviously, it's already been a long day. I've been to multiple hardware stores. So what I did was I got a piece of nylon tubing as a spacer. I cut that to size. I was able to shave it down to get it correct for both sizes. Okay, and then what I'm doing is I'm using shrink wrap or heat shrink tubing. And I'm going to insert that in, excuse the focus, and then heat shrink it on there and use that as my spacer. You can see the difference in the spacer versus the old one. It's shorter. Plus, when it shrinks, you'll see the difference in height. I'll show that next. Oh, almost dropped it. So you can see the difference in the height of the tube. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here it is installed afterwards. Just looks like black rubber. Okay, so it's installed. I'm actually going to test fit everything dry. In other words, I'm not going to run any Loctite or anything yet, because I might have to remove it, or I might change something, obviously, like what I had to do originally to make this work. But here is the lower nylon, the upper nylon spacer, and I don't know, I like it better. I think it goes away that way. It's strong. Also, I like the idea that it won't crush or scratch or rust. I am in California. As you can see, certain things get rusty and grimy from the ocean air. I used to live by the beach, So I have to change I used to have to change hardware all the time just because of sitting in the garage, regular ocean air hitting it. I live closer to drier climate in California now, so I don't have to worry about that. But I like the idea of the nylon spacer and the heat shrink tubing. I was gonna rattle can of black just so it's black, and then I'm like, well, I'll just heat shrink tube it in black, and what's the difference? If anything, it was faster and easier, and it worked out. So the bracket's on. I'm probably gonna call it a night. If I do anything else, I'll make sure I record it. Thank you. Okay, so here I am, day 2. Not that it took me 2 full days, but yesterday I started kind of late, and I spent most of the time actually trying to find correct hardware, or less ugly hardware that Harley gave me, and then making some stuff to make this kit work on this Freight Train Nacelle. The original, by the way, if I repeat myself on this, I apologize. I'm just kind of giving a breakdown of what's going on so far. The original Softail Slim headlight does not use this Freight Train Nacelle, same as a Road King probably. So the spacers I had to use, I had to make my own. I did nylon instead of steel. I heat shrinked them with black rubber. That way they kind of went away, and it mounted up really nice. It's kind of a dry run. I'm going to take it all apart and use thread locker. Took the front headlight out for wiring accessibility, and of course I disconnected the battery. Again, this is what it looks like from the back. It's a little wrinkle in the heat shrink there. Doesn't really bother me. Honestly, I'm going to take it back out. I might just cut it off just so it's nice and straight and doesn't wrinkle on the end. But honestly, I don't mind it. It almost seems like a protector versus metal against metal, where it's going to get scratched and then rust. So I don't mind it. That's the lower one. Like I said, it kind of goes away. The original steel sleeves were not going to work because of the different spacing that is needed on the original Softail Slim versus this Freight Train Nacelle. The original has a gap in there, so it's a lot longer, and this was not fitting, so I just made my own. Okay, so I assembled the second headlight assembly, or parking light assembly, sorry about that. You could see I'm a little meticulous about the way things look, so I had the bolt facing the opposite way from the other bolt. That way I could set them across from each other and they'd match. But here's something I found out. Nothing in the instruction sheet tells you. I don't know if you can hear that. There's rattle inside. It's really annoying. Of course, on a motorcycle, it's going to sound 10 times worse. But it's not on this one. So this is what I figured out. These rubber foam two-sided tape deals actually tape, and I only figured out because of the shape and the width. They tape on the inside of the trim ring, and they squeeze against each edge, or at least that's what I used them for, of the bulb, and it completely took away the rattle and made them quiet. So I'm gonna take apart this bulb and install those trim ring pads. I actually thought it would be better if they actually mount on the side of the bulb and then just put the trim ring over it, but I mounted it on the trim ring and then I just clamped it over the bulb. But since that's what I did on this one, I'm just gonna match it on the opposite side. Okay, here's the passing light assembly. I might as well show you how this went together. Okay, so this is what they call the nesting ring. Okay, that sits against this edge, and you got these notches for the bulb, and the center notch matches the notch on the housing, and that keeps it from spinning around on you under pressure. So this would mount onto here. You just center that on the housing. Okay, and now the trim ring would go over it. Again, you could see the gap that's in there. And that's where I'm going to install these foam blocks, basically. Like that. And that's going to hug over the trim ring. Now again, I thought maybe it would have been better to mount them on the actual bulb themselves. But I'm just going to copy what I did on the other side. Also, what I did in the other one, since I knew it was done, I went ahead and used Loctite. Just regular blue Loctite, don't use the heavy stuff, small screw. So there's the foam inserted. That should be good enough to hold in place. Now, usually when they give you foam in a solid blank piece like that, it's probably designed to be cut into multi-pieces. And, you know, use a piece on top, use a piece on the side, or use a piece like in 4 corners. I don't know, it's not necessary. You do it any way you want. They don't even tell you what to do with it. I just kind of figured it out because of the rattle I had on the original bulb piece. So this would mount onto here, and you could tell it's already tighter. Okay, you want to make sure your gap and this bolt gap all line up to the markings on the bulb. Run your bolt through, run some Loctite, and you should be good to go. And then the next step would be bolting and wiring. Okay, so I got the passing lights mounted. They stand to be aligned, but it's fine. I ran this heat shrink tubing to cover up the wires. It's a little bit smaller than the one they give you. The one they give you looks a lot like the, I don't know if you can see in there. Looks a lot like the stock rubber piece. It's just kind of big and ugly, and it doesn't shrink too well. So it did not want to, it wanted to leave the edge of the wire exposed. It did not go in the hole. So I'll just use this thinner heat shrink, and I was able to stick it up inside the hole of the lower nut. Usually most of these are wired from the front and they go behind. I don't know, I don't like the way that looks. So I just wired it around the brace and went in behind and pulled it out this way. And here's the original headlight switch, yellow, black, and white. I think it just needs to connect to yellow. And then that goes to a toggle switch that needs to be drilled out and mounted in the back of this panel. And I don't know if I'm going to run the toggle switch, but either way. And then the black just goes to ground. It's pretty simple. So they're mounted, they're bolted. Last thing I talked to you was about that foam to keep these from shaking. These are still loose. And then once everything's done, wired, and tested, then I'll go back and put Loctite to everything and make sure it's good. Okay, that's my 72 iron head rigid tail factory Springer bobber that needs a lot of work. So just because it's in the background. Okay, so I got the wires out. I was about to cut my hot wire to run these gray and black. That's going to be your hot. It's very simple. And your black is going to be your ground. Basically the way it hooks up is you hook up the gray and black to the yellow. And obviously the black, they have a ring terminal. And where my original ring terminal is supposed to bolt out, there used to be a bracket that hangs off that threaded piece right there. And they ask you to run 5/16 hole. So that's your closest ground. I could also splice into the ground going to the headlight, but if I don't have to, I won't. But here's the funny thing. I saw this other yellow wire, and it was sticking out of the harness. And you could see it there. It has a yellow wire into it. So, I mean, typically the way things work, it's yellow. This is yellow, so that's some sort of harness wire. It did have a cap on it. I tested it, and it's a headlight wire. So that's easy enough. I'm not going to splice into my hot wire or to the switch. I'm going to just run this spade connector to it, standard, you know, electrical box spade connector, and I'm just going to run it straight into that, and then heat shrink it tight so there's no you know, shorts or anything like that. And that made that real easy. So I'm guessing since your typical FL type body and your typical Softail frame and chassis, that is already an accessory for these type of lights or other type of lights that maybe this bike didn't come with originally. So that made that real easy. You don't have to cut to your wires. If you guys are running Softails, most likely that wire is there. I'm lucky, or I'm glad I found it. So I'm going to use it, and that made me happy. So there's my red heat shrink tube. This is going to say that that's, in my own mind, it's going to show that that's maybe I'll do a yellow heat shrink tube, but it's just going to say it's a hot wire. Okay, so here's the connector for the headlight, hot wire to the factory yellow extension. Looks like the extension goes down, and that's what creates these two wires. So one of those wires is actually that. And like I said, it's probably pre-installed there for factory accessory lighting, which I'm adding now. So instructions again don't say that, but I guess because not all bikes are the same. So now I'm going to run this heat shrink tubing and just seal that connection there against weather and other things. Hopefully it fits. Well, excuse the neighbors, but there's the sealed connection. I might go over it again just to kind of cover the whole thing. Okay, so the headlights are powered on. I didn't have to tap into my original harness at all. I used the existing harness for the power accessories. Okay, I did cover it with some electrical tape, and then I use the suggested 5/16 for ground hanging there. As you can tell, headlights work on. I still need to align them. Let me see if I could get over here with the switch. So they just turn on like your regular headlights will. Then when you hit your high beam switch, they turn off. That's actually by law. So, and then when you hit your toggle high beam, they also turn off. High beam off, regular headlight on, toggle high beam off. So they only run with your standard low beam headlight. That is the legal way to mount these. Yes, you can mount them all the time, but I figured I'd follow the rules for it. Plus, I wanted to work like a factory Harley would have it. So that's it. I'm going to connect the headlight, the trim ring. Like I said, I'm going to change my mirrors back to chrome just to add to it. And then once I line everything up, I'm going to put some thread locker in there, and I'll be done. Let's try this out here. And again, I love original headlights. I'm not a fan of LEDs, so this to me just looks classic. It looks real. I'm going to change the mirrors to chrome, but this just looks legit.